This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with winemaker Pieter Badenhorst, who is joining us all the way from Stellenbosch after a rather lengthy journey via San Francisco and New York. And you're here to speak about the wines of Fleur du Cap. Fleur du Cap is actually one of the very first South African wines I was introduced to, both the Chardonnay and your noble sweet wine. But it's good to see you in Canada today. Canada's always been very kind to you, I believe.
That's correct. Fleur du Cap's been in Canada for more than 25 years.
Yeah.
We go back a long way, and we've had a absolute love relationship with Canada, and just I think it fits your taste profile, the wines that we produce there in Stellenbosch.
So you've spent quite some time in Canada then, just visiting the market and things?
I've been here in 2014. I had the pleasure of being in Toronto. Then I went over to Quebec and Montreal, and on this trip I basically almost did the reverse. I went to Montreal first, I went down to Ottawa, and then I'm here back again in Toronto.
And that was when we first met some 3 years ago with my young sister.
It was 3 years ago. We were together in a restaurant,
yes.
And we ended up leaving. We were the very last people to leave that night because we had an amazing time together.
I may have some pictures from that night, actually.
Please not. What happens at wine tastings stays at wine tastings, Jamie.
Anyway, Fleur du Cap is a very recognizable name. I guess in the world of where does Fleur du Cap stand in the world of South African wines with regards to size?
I think size. We definitely one of the bigger brands.
Yes,
and the older, more known brands. It's a brand that's been around for quite a while. We've about 40 plus years old. And we were there right in the beginning of when I think wines, the quality of wines just popped back in those days, and we were there throughout the 90s when the South African industry just boomed, the Mandela effect. So I think Fleur du Cap's gone through those days and just consistently pushed out quality wines, affordable quality wines.
How long have you been with the company now?
For me, it's my 11th year. I joined Fleur du Cap in 2007 and have been making both the reds and white wines. We tend to split it up there. It's a big enough setup, but I've been fortunate enough to do both and just have the privilege to work with these great wines and these great grapes we receive from multiple growers in and around Stellenbosch, as well as some of the other regions in South Africa where we buy grapes from, and just it's an absolute privilege. And so many of the other winemakers, some of my good friends I studied with, and I know a lot of winemakers, they're really envious of my job and the quality of grapes and that I get to work with at Fleur du Cap.
Now, you've been in the South African wine industry for quite some time. What would you say the most significant changes were, the most significant part of your country's evolution when it comes to winemaking have been?
The single greatest effect was like I mentioned, the Mandela effect back in '94. I think he's just an amazing man. I think he was so gentle and so forgiving, and so he just changed our country for the better. And I think it was for the rest of the world an image of how people can work over their differences and get together. And I think it showed, gave the world hope for opposite fractions to just sit down at a table and work through their differences and work it out and start talking to one another, and that showed the world, and it opened up the world for us. I think it opened up new markets for us.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And just put us in a new league and made people aware of just, wait a minute, South Africa, but the quality reflected what we have available in South Africa. I think we've got beautiful, beautiful quality wines, and the fact that we can now export it, and we were spoiled for choice with what we drank back in South Africa.
Because you couldn't sell it to anyone.
Because we couldn't sell it to anybody. And then all of a sudden we could. And hopefully that's continuing. And I think we've got some beautiful wineries. The wine tourism in South Africa is just booming. Everybody's coming down to the winelands. And they want to be there and see these beautiful wineries with the mountains and the vineyards, and the infrastructure is well developed. I mean, since they probably, and I think after Nelson Mandela is probably the 2010 World Cup.
Yes, of course.
Our infrastructure just boomed, and the roads were developed, and everything just came together, and again that showcased what we as a country could do, and put together, and I think we put on a beautiful show in 2010, and it's been growing and gathering momentum. The tourists that came for that just keep on coming back and telling their friends.
Where would you say, for better and for worse, South Africa is seen on the world stage when it comes to wine production?
I think we obviously gathered or grouped together in with the New World wines, but I think we've got a long enough history to be we're more than that. We've the best of both worlds. We make some beautiful old school, just classic good wines, and then we've got some new winemakers not afraid to experiment and bring out new cultivars and just play with wines.
For yourself, what is so special about South African wine?
I think there's a purity to our wines. I think there's a stability. There's a continuity. I think our vintages we're very fortunate in weather-wise to have. We don't have the ups and downs like some of our counterparts.
Yes, of course.
We've got the stability that just there's a linearity or a line that you can draw through our wines year on year and it just keeps on improving because we just building on. There's a respect for the people who came before us, for myself, for the winemakers before me, and on whose shoulders I'm standing and who I'm tapping in on their knowledge, but. I think also then we're not scared to just try new things, but keeping our stable background and the giants on whose shoulders we are standing.
How often do you speak with both your growers and your winemaking pals about the impact of climate change?
Ooh, climate change.
That's a big question.
That's a big question. Let's start with if you listen to some of the well-known politicians these days, is there actually such a thing as yes, there's this thing like climate change. Yes. I think we've been going through a bit of a drought in South Africa the past 2 or 3 years, and we can see the impact of water being more scarce and scarce. We had to adapt to that, to being running low on water.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's why technology is there. There's so many beautiful things coming out of there where we're using the most modern technology, and we're having lots of conferences exactly on that. How to save water. That is the big buzzword. We're using satellite imagery to make sure that we only irrigate if it's needed.
Well, I mean, California and Australia are going through the self-same problem, right?
So
or at least related problems.
Problems. We're going through that where we make sure that we're a water scarce country, and I'm very glad to see when I'm looking at the weather back home, it looks like we're going to get some good rains. We're very excited about that. I think it's needed, but we had to adapt, and we have. It's a big topic in South Africa, how to adapt to droughts and be water wise. But it's not on on a winemaking scale or irrigation of vineyards, but in the entire population needs to be water-wise, and I think it goes for everybody around the world. It's probably one of the scarcest commodities around, and there's going to be probably big implications in the years to come. We all need to be water-wise, not just us in the wineries.
On that note, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. It's really good to see you again.
Thank you, Jamie. I had a good time with you today.
And fun tasting through your wines again today.
Thank you so much.
Maybe we'll see you down in South Africa at some point.
Please, I invite you and every single body listening to this. It's a beautiful country. You will enjoy coming to South Africa. Every bit of it. Everybody that I talk to, it's like we should have come earlier. So please don't make the same mistake of waiting too long. Too long. Come down to South Africa. Give us a call at Fleur du Cap. Come down and taste our wines. You will be pleasantly surprised.
I'll have a word with my wife about that and see what she says. Thank you very much, and bye for now.
Thank you, Jamie. Awesome.